Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. The Trump administration says it will partially fund SNAP amid the government shutdown. Two judges have ordered the government to tap into the food assistance program's contingency funds. Tuesday is the first major election day during President Trump's second term. What to watch for this week in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York. President Trump says he won't attend Supreme Court arguments this week on whether his tariff policies are legal. And the president's comments on global flashpoints, including Nigeria and Ukraine. A nearly $40 million deal to power artificial intelligence. OpenAI has signed a multi-year partnership with Amazon for its cloud services. Rescue crews responded to the partial collapse of a medieval tower in the heart of Rome. One worker is critically injured, one still trapped.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
The Trump administration says it will partially fund SNAP amid the ongoing government shutdown. The announcement follows two court orders requiring the government to dip into contingency funds for the food assistance program. The Department of Agriculture had earlier said it would freeze SNAP payments starting November 1st due to a lack of funding. The program serves about 1 in 8 Americans and costs taxpayers about $8 billion a month. The department has said the contingency fund for SNAP amounts to $5 billion. The process of loading SNAP cards involves steps by state and federal agencies and vendors. Replenishing cards can take up to 2 weeks in some states. The average monthly benefit is usually about $190 per person. And severe staffing shortages due to the shutdown are causing widespread flight delays across the country. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy spoke on CNBC today regarding air traffic controller shortages.
Is there more risk in the system when you have a shutdown? Absolutely, there's more risk. But if we thought that it was unsafe, we'll shut the whole airspace down. We won't let people travel. We're not there at this point. It's just significant delays.
According to FAA data, this past weekend marked the worst for air traffic control staffing shortages since the shutdown began. Their absences have led to tens of thousands of delays at some of the busiest U.S. airports. The shutdown has forced 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 Transportation and Security Administration officers to work without pay. Duffy said he has no plans to fire air traffic controllers who are calling in sick. He said the FAA was already short of 3,500 air traffic controllers even before the shutdown. Airlines have repeatedly urged Congress to pass a continuing resolution and end the shutdown. Millions of Americans are at risk of going without SNAP benefits. Joining us to discuss is Dale Sutherland. He is a pastor and also co-founder and board chairman of Boost Others. So Dale, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us what are you seeing on the ground right now as millions risk losing their SNAP benefits?
Well, certainly a lot of anxiety and concern over this. And we're seeing also an increase in requests for food, whereas there is usually between the SNAP benefits and current government infrastructure, a lot of that is covered here in our area.
So, Dale, to me, you have a very interesting background. You used to be an undercover cop, and then you became a preacher, and now you're working to ensure people don't go hungry. Can you tell us what's motivating you through this?
Well, I would say the motivation has always been, whether I was a policeman or when I was a pastor or as a pastor, as I'm helping Boost Others, would be the same, and that is, we're trying our best to follow what the scriptures say. That is to help people physically and spiritually, most important spiritually, because that lasts forever. So helping people to meet Christ personally is our main message. But in order to give that message, you kind of have to wrap the gospel in a sandwich, is what Charles Spurgeon said years ago. And so if people are hungry, we need to feed them. And we do that here in the DC area so that we can help people that are really in the worst setting or in the worst, most difficult crisis. So as a policeman, I used to solve crisis with arrest. Now I can solve crisis with hope and an answer that can be long-term change for them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you have a very interesting background, and you're probably seeing families many of them, a number of them on a daily basis, right? So can you also talk to us about how families are coping right now when they don't have these SNAP benefits?
Well, I would say we deal with people that are in crisis. We have social workers throughout the system in the DC area that let us know when somebody is in crisis and they think we can solve something nobody else can solve. So we kind of fit in that gap. So in light of that, our families that we deal with, and we have helped, I think, around 1,500 families area wide and with our other projects in Ohio. And with those families, what we find is they're terribly resilient. And when we're able to introduce them to a relationship with Christ, it makes them that much more confident that God will get them through this next most difficult time. And so I'd say there's anxiety. Moms are working hard. Dads are working hard. When there's a government shutdown, they're trying to get other jobs, side jobs, anything to try to feed their families right now. These people are resilient, hardworking, but yes, they're anxious to get a resolution, definitely.
So with these SNAP benefits stopping, right, has it not put a strain on either food charities or other organizations? Do you think charities can keep up with an increased demand, and how long can they do this for?
That's a great question. I would say that charities are working really hard in this time, and obviously, just like during COVID, let's say, it's a massive increase for them in terms of work and need. And need is what drives it. So when you see this going on, of course, they're going to be stretched. Ours is, and others are, so that it's a great time to give, to help us to be able to fund these programs to be able to get more food into the hands of those in crisis and in a real need right now. I think that local church is a great place to engage with people, but there's lots of really good nonprofits that help with food as well.
So do you think, I mean, this situation, I would say, is highlighting how fragile government assistance can be. In your view, has America become too reliant on government assistance as opposed to community bodies like charities, for example, and churches?
Oh, I think that Democrat, Republican, this has been a discussion for at least 60 or 70 years. So we've tried all kinds of things. So I think there is in some places and in some families, an overdependence. But when you hear the stories we hear about families in crisis, a lot of the families that are getting help are not lazy or unwilling to try to make their own way, but for a variety of reasons, because of crisis of family sickness and job problems and so on. It creates a real need that ideally is a temporary need. That's where we try to work, is we call it boost others, because we try to boost them out of that crisis. But if it's perennial, if there's drug addiction or mental health or other things, then there's other parts of our system that come in and try to help them as well.
What attitudes or emotions are you seeing or encountering the most as you help families?
I would say two emotions constantly amaze me. One is there's fear or a healthy concern. But two, a commitment to getting their family through this. Families are not giving up because of lack of government funding. They are, the ones I'm talking to are fighting hard to try to make this work and get through this in spite of whatever the government and so on does.
And do you think we need to put more of an emphasis on strengthening communities, the local organizations, to help families overcome these difficult times?
Oh, I think that it would be wise to invest in those that are willing. I always say you find people like our guys who go to do these deliveries. These are special people. And so when you have one in your community that you can really trust, it's wise to invest in them. They're willing to do work you're not able to do. You got to go to work. You got to do this and that. So to find people like our organization that are on the front lines, willing to help, and then helping them to help others, to me, this is brilliant. And I would love a world where we were able to just operate through our charities and not have to depend on government support. But for now, I think we're finding a balance. But this is a time when we really are in need to really depend on our community partners. Of course, as a pastor, as a Christian, I say, first, rely on God, the Lord Jesus, giving everybody a chance to know him. Secondly, I would say, is to look to your church or other institution. And then thirdly, to look for nonprofits, other churches, mosques, synagogues, wherever, where you can find this kind of emergency aid.
So Dale, to wrap up here, just one final question. If you could give a message to families trying to get through this period of time, what would you tell them?
Well, there's two things to get through a crisis. One is interior and one is exterior. You know what I mean? So if I'm scared all the time, I can't lead. I can't help my family through this. I can't resolve problems. So I would say, to me, that's where we go for our relationship with God. It is essential we go to him, as well as other great psychology and other encouragements that you can learn and get from online. I think both those things really make a difference. And then secondly, look to creative solutions, because they're there. If you're in America, they are there. You just got to work a little harder to find them sometimes, and it's worth every bit of effort and bureaucracy you might have to manage, because there are people out there, believe me, who want to help you through this. They really are, and it's just a matter of getting connected with the right ones. And with God's help, I think we'll pull through this crisis, and hopefully lives will be changed inside as well as outside.
Well, Dale, I have to say it's been really great speaking with you today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Tomorrow is the first major election day during President Trump's second term. Heated races in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City will test the popularity of Republicans and the ideology of democratic socialism. NTD's Melina Weisskopf tells us more.
In New York, Democrats have chosen Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani to face former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent.
I will not be the mayor that we have today who went on national television and opened the door to civil immigration enforcement. I will be the mayor that stands up for our sanctuary city policies, that stands up.
New Yorkers are concerned. You have this Democratic Socialist. What does it mean to have New York being run by a person who favors socialist economic policies? Public safety is a very big issue. I want to add police. He has been very anti-NYPD.
The race will test the popularity of socialist ideology among Democratic voters. Democrats were hesitant to endorse Mamdani, and House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries refused to acknowledge Mamdani as the future of the party.
Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country. As it relates to
the two New York Democrats are challenged by Republican Curtis Sliwa, leader of the Guardian Angels, who built his campaign on law and order.
You cannot allow people not to pay the fare. Zohran Mamdani is fantasy, which when reality hits, he's not going to be able to do it. And by the way, it's the state that has to do that, not the mayor in the city of New York.
Across the river in New Jersey, voters will elect a new governor to replace the Democratic incumbent, whose term is limited. A close race shaping up between Democrat Mikey Sherrill and Republican Jack Citarelli.
My opponent's not from New Jersey. She hasn't even been here all that long. And what little time she's been here, she's been 6 years in Congress, and somehow, some way, tripled her net worth. How about we elect the Jersey guy?
I have a different kind of background, military service. I'm a mom of 4 kids. I'm focused on driving down costs. I have a plan to take this as the emergency it is, the crisis that it is.
And a term-limited Republican governor is set to be replaced in Virginia. The state's current Republican Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Earl Sears, is facing former Congressman Abigail Spanberger.
But the takeaway for me is that politics is in everything. For her, in her name, for the rest of us, in everything. In the schools our kids attend, in the educational opportunities that exist, in the health care that we do or don't have, in the prescriptions we can or can't afford.
That she's going to tax you more. Believe her. That's what her party does. Always the Democrats will tax you more. We don't have to look any.
Polling shows the Democrat leading by a wide margin several days before the general election. Virginia has a history of electing the party opposite to the sitting president. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Democratic socialist Zoran Mamdani has been consistently polling in first in New York's mayoral race. His socialist policies have sparked discussions from both major political parties about the direction of New York City and the Democratic Party. Joining us now to discuss is Virginia Prodan, a human rights attorney and author of Saving My Assassin. So, Virginia, thank you for joining us today. Why do you think Mamdani is performing well in the polls, despite the well-documented history of how harmful socialist and communist policies can be?
Thank you for having me. I believe one of the reasons is because people in New York, they are still thinking and believing the lies and not the reality of the situation. I remember in socialist and communist Romania, people were conquered by the boots of the Russians. In America, in New York, people are conquered by the lies. They don't want to do the search, and they don't want to be part of the discussion, to tell the people around them that socialism is a system, what I call a land of lies and a prison land, promises heaven and delivers hell, will destroy and suffocate many companies, a corporation, will eliminate the free market economy, and will create a government that will dictate everything: what you eat, where you go, where you live, what your kids and where will go to school, and so forth. Will take, if they have will be in power, will take your guns from you because they want to control you. They will consider that being a Christian, you are a threat to them, because for them there is no God, therefore no Bible. The Communist Manifesto is their Bible. So I believe it's the fear and the desire to dream that it's going to be something so wonderful that is not true. It's going to be a land of lies and a prison land that you will be a prisoner of the government. And the elite, Mamdani and others, will live a better life than the richest person that we have in America today in a free country.
So, Virginia, can we talk about specifics here? What are some of the policies suggested by Mamdani that you're especially concerned about?
I am concerned about free stuff. Yeah, free bus, free lunch, free things for everybody, free insurance. The same ideology was imposed in or presented in socialist communist Romania, and we didn't have free buses. We had buses that were so horrible. We didn't have a free food. We had low quality food that the government will bring it wherever they will decide to bring, and people will stay in line for hours, sometimes from 6 p.m. to next day, 12 p.m., in order to find something to eat. The price will be established by the government. There will be a drastic shortage of not only food, but fuel, medicine. The doctors will be told who to treat. If you are a specific age, you will be sent home to die and not to have any medication. That is a very, very dangerous. The socialists and what he Mamdani present, it's not like you are trying a pair of shoes and in a week you decided that they don't fit you, you change it. No. When socialism comes, it will take a long period of time to establish again freedom in a city, in a town, or even in America.
So, Virginia, can you send a message or give some advice to those people who say that these socialist policies, some of them at least, seem to promise good outcomes or sound like they could produce a fairer or more equal society?
Okay, the first thing that I will say is read my memoir, Saving My Assassin. You will find it at my website, virginiaprodanbooks.com, but you will tell you how horrible that government is going to be. Also, be very careful. Think about, would you work hard in order that your salary or your house will be given to someone else? One thing, be very, very careful. In Romania, after the socialist government established, the leaders like Mamdani and others were able to pick and choose the kind of house they will have and take you out of the house. And then all the leaders of the socialists and communists will be living in your house. They will take your house away from you. They will take your company away from you. And if they will think that you maybe didn't have the right attitude when they took you out of your house, of your company, they will put you in jail. Many times they might make you disappear, and your entire family will disappear or be put in jail, because you have to speak their language, and their language is you have a good life. Now it's our time to have a good life, and you go and live whatever you want. We are gonna give these houses and these companies to others. That's a stealing. That's a process that is very, very dangerous, what Mamdani is. So go and vote for freedom. Go and vote for candidates that will protect your freedom in America. They will protect your life and your company. This is a serious matter. I came to United States of America more than 30 years. In my wildest dream, I never thought that I will live to give this message to American people.
Okay, Virginia, before we go here, I would like to ask you one more question. So typically, socialism leads to communism, right? Can you talk to us a little bit about between the clash of religion and communism, if we take other countries, for example, like China or Romania?
Yes. Socialism starts with lying. I'm going to give you free stuff, and you vote for me. And they will start to confiscate and everything, and you kind of feel good. Oh, I am, and everything. But then comes communists, where they have the power and they confiscate everything, and they don't give you anything. They use you as a useful, stupid person, crazy person, because they don't believe in socialism and communism. Does not believe in God. In fact, our leader declared himself a God and required all of us to worship him. That's communist. The Mamdani will do the same thing. He does not believe in God. He does not believe that there is a Bible and that is something with eternal values. They proclaim Communist Manifesto. According to their point of view, there are not eternal values, but the socialist philosophy is deemed, or what they think. Yes, we are the leaders, and you have to listen to us, and you have to be a puppet in our hands. I cannot tell you how dangerous. Many times I said, if you read my memoir, Saving My Assassin, please read chapter 3 times, because it's a story of my uncle who, like Americans here, didn't pay any attention, anything, didn't want to talk. And when the communists came, they confiscated his business, they took his house, and he started to speak. And they put him in the psychiatric hospitals. And for the rest of his life, he stayed there. And he died so painfully, thinking, I should have maybe had the opportunity to speak, and I need to speak. So my message is, you have the opportunity to speak right now. As American people, we brought Christ, freedom, and prosperity to people all over the world. It is our time. It is our job right now, not only for people in New York or other states, but all the Americans to bring Christ, freedom, and prosperity back to America. Because only with God we can have freedom, we can have prosperity, we can have companies, we can have opportunities to invent things, to create things, and to be the people that America was intended to be, and to respect the Constitution and to respect the freedom that others died for.
Okay, well, Virginia, now Mamdani is Muslim, right? And
Yes.
I do encourage our viewers who is listening to this to, check out your memoir. It sounds like it could be a very important piece of information for our viewers. And you're sending a very strong message today, Virginia. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Republican mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa continues his campaign blitz. Let's go live now to NTD's David Lam in New York. David, what can you tell us about Curtis Sliwa's campaign thus far?
Hey, good to see you. So we're in Staten Island, one of the boroughs in New York, and Curtis Sliwa in his campaign is saying that this area is a forgotten area, and he believes that he would bring the economy back to life here. So earlier, we met Curtis Sliwa as he was campaigning down this street on Bay Street, and he was speaking to constituents and people along the area, just campaigning, getting to know them. And he gave a speech, a press conference earlier, and he said, I asked him if he was confident or how does he feel one day before the election, and this is what he said.
One thing has definitely resonated in that we have preserved democracy. One person, one vote, which is the basis of our country. This election clearly has put the shot callers, the billionaires, the influencers, and the insiders on notice. They're not going to choose who gets elected by the people. The people will choose. One person, one vote. Democracy is fully alive. And that's what's so exciting about this election. I'm the happy warrior.
And Sliwa said, regardless of the election results, they would keep fighting and trying to restore New York City. So in the background in that video, you could see the businesses that are destituted here, and they were pointing out the theater, and they were saying that it's been decades that the businesses have been in this situation. So he believes that he could revive the economy here. And during his campaign, he said he went to about 350 neighborhoods. So he's confident that he's doing a lot of his campaigning and work here. So alongside with him, he had activist Scott Libido and several elected officials, or one elected official, including a city council candidate, John Shia. Now, Curtis is the founder of the Guardian Angels, which is a volunteer group that patrols New York City to prevent crime. So people are saying that he has a background and knowledge of what the situation is like that's on the ground. And for Curtis, his message is that he's trying to focus on reviving public safety and the economy here. Back to you.
Okay, David, thank you. A federal judge has extended her order blocking President Trump from deploying National Guard troops into Portland. Judge Karen Immergert ruled yesterday that claims of violence in Portland were exaggerated.
NTD News, the fastest growing independent news source in America, bringing you breaking news from around the world. Expert analysis, investigative reporting, and original award-winning documentaries. We're known for our uncensored China coverage you won't find anywhere else. We cover the stories that affect you and shape our world without the political noise. We report from the heart with you in mind. Watch us right here on NTD News.
Election day is just one day away. Joining us to discuss is Madeline Somerville, a Democratic strategist, a speechwriter, and attorney. And we have Jason Meister. He's the founder of Last Stand Political Action Committee and an advisory board member of Donald J. Trump for President. So great to have you guys in studio. We talked a number of times, Madeline, online, but we've actually never met. This is our first time, so it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And if I may, I'll start with you, Madeline. So we're seeing that turnout for in-person voting for the NYC mayor race is much higher than previous years. So we're seeing a boost in younger voters, potentially helping Mamdani. But on the other hand, higher turnout could help Cuomo. Some polls showing older voters showing more support for him, and they usually turn out at higher rates. So what are you looking at in terms of the variables here that could ultimately decide the outcome of this race?
Yeah, so it's interesting when you think about the different generations of voters. A lot of the folks that we know came out from Mamdani in the primary, right, were going to be people who were especially motivated. So, and those are the folks that turn out to vote in primaries in general. And there are many people, like the folks who were recently participating in the protests, who are younger people who might not make it to the polls as easily. Actually, Republican voters tend to make it to the polls much more so. Older voters who tend to skew Republican tend to make it out. So I'm interested to see how Gen Z is actually going to turn out here, because I think we may have overestimated how much they would turn out for Mamdani.
Okay, so Jason, what are the variables you're looking at? Because we've got recent polls that's showing that potentially the lead that Mamdani has is narrowing.
Yeah, look, I think what's happening is that these polls have missed a very significant anti-Mamdani vote. And I think that vote is now you're going to start to see that vote in this Atlas Intel poll that just came out 1 o'clock today, showing that Andrew Cuomo is within 4 points of Mamdani, which is within the margin of error in that poll. And so I think there's a significant anti-Mamdani vote, very similar to the closet Trump vote in the 2015 or 2016 and 2024 presidential elections. I think there's an anti-Mamdani vote that has been hidden from these polls. And I think that is going to show up very significantly going to Election Day.
I think that's right, too.
So going off of his point then, if you look at prediction markets like Polymarket, right, it has Mamdani over 90%, I think 95% when I checked this morning. So are you looking at that? Do you think Mamdani has this in the bag, or is there a chance for Cuomo?
I still think Mamdani has it in the bag. I just think it's going to be a much closer race than we realized. Do you disagree?
I do. I disagree slightly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you look at the Polymarket polling, for people, bettors in New York City, Cuomo is up by 11 points. So that's a very significant swing towards Cuomo for people that are here with businesses, homes, that live in New York City. That's where Cuomo is doing much significantly higher. If you look at the Polymarket polls of the greater country and world, yes, Mamdani is winning very significantly, but I think it's the New York City specific voters where he's winning, where Cuomo's winning.
Okay, so can I ask you how you feel about Cuomo's chances? In your mind, what is the likelihood that he can overcome Zohran Mamdani?
Again, I think that's going to really base its foundation on the anti-Mamdani vote. However, what I've been doing this election cycle is targeting registered Republicans who typically and historically don't vote in municipal elections, but vote in federal and state elections. Those Republicans, of which there are about 598,000 voters, if we can swing about 55,000 of those 598,000 voters from Curtis Sliwa to Andrew Cuomo, Cuomo can win this election. And what I think President Trump has done in the last 24 hours, he was on 60 Minutes last night, and he specifically said that a bad Democrat is better than a jihadi communist. That's what Mamdani is. And so if those voters, if these Republican voters come out for Andrew Cuomo because they're afraid of what Mamdani will do to destroy the city, then I think Cuomo will win.
Okay, I do have a follow-up to that, but I saw Madeline chuckling there. Maybe you have a response.
Sure, and I agree with everything you said up until the jihadi communist comment. But I think what you said prior to that was just the facts in terms of those of us who do local elections understand that these races can be swung on a certain amount and that the calculations that have been made up till now are only based on what we've seen in the past. And it's difficult to extrapolate and make those expectations for the future. So it's just a fact that if you take those 55,000 and swing them, that it's possible and that it could happen. I absolutely believe that. I think that there's been a lot of propaganda against Mamdani. As a Jewish person myself, I've been in a lot of conversations with different people in the community about it, but it shows that apparently 67% of young Jewish folks that are around my age in New York City are voting for him. I think he's a human rights advocate, and I think that there's been some propaganda that has been quite negative that might not be true. So,
yeah, anything to say?
Look, I think that many New York voters have been through some pretty bad mayors. For example, Mayor de Blasio was incompetent, is how I would put it. But I think that the electorate this time around understands that this isn't really that we're dealing with a candidate in Mamdani that's incompetent, but is going to destroy the city by design. He's a left-wing revolutionary, and what he wants is to empty the prisons, defund the police, have city-run grocery stores. This is antithetic to America. This is antithetic to New York City. It is antithetic to capitalism. It is not what this country was founded upon. It is not what this city is based upon. And I think that many people in this election cycle realize, and Republicans in particular, usually vote for the loser in the mayoral race in New York City. And then they pick up their bootstraps the next day, they go to work, and they hope for a better outcome in the next election cycle. Here, I think in this election cycle, they understand the gravity of their vote. And the fact is that this is going to change New York City forever. And I think that they realize what the threat that they're faced with. And that's why I think that the anti-Mamdani vote going to tomorrow is going to be very significant.
That's 100% right in my view. That's 100% right. Absolutely. I mean, I disagree with his judgment about Mamdani, but I absolutely agree that that's exactly how the dynamics work.
All right, so let me get to that follow-up that I was talking about earlier. How much in common do you think Cuomo and Sliwa supporters have politically? Is there any overlap? Because could Sliwa supporters vote for Cuomo depending on how much overlap there is or how much there isn't?
Look, I think that Sliwa voters and Cuomo voters have the same political enemy, which is Mamdani. And I think that they see that the same way. The question is whether Sliwa voters understand at this point in time that the math just simply isn't there. I have no issue with Sliwa. I have respect for the man. I think he loves his city.
I agree.
I think he's a good man. I think he, again, respects the city. However, the math simply isn't behind him. And that's why President Trump was very direct to his voters last night on 60 Minutes saying that a bad Democrat is better than a communist. Now, remember, Mamdani identifies himself as a socialist. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think for the purpose of New York City voters, there's really a distinction between democratic socialism and communism. And so I think that they're going to vote against that.
If I could just address that.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to Mamdani being an enemy or against the city in some way, I think the only faction of society that he's against is the 1%. The goal, right, is to tax the top 1% an extra 2%, similar to what's been done in New Jersey, so that they can fund the programs that he wants to have, so that people who are living in New York City, who have been priced out of their homes because of price fixing that's gone on, and actually President Trump is doing a very good job working on antitrust cases against that because of the price fixing, right? There's been wage fixing that's gone on. People have been unfairly priced out of living there. He's trying to reset the scale. He's trying to rebalance things. So the only people who are threatened by him are the people who tend to have more of a voice, who are the top 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do agree that Mamdani in his campaign has correctly diagnosed a problem, which is affordability. That is the issue that he is completely campaigning on. What I have a difference of with Mamdani, and what I think voters will have a difference of with him tomorrow, is his prescription. His prescription to the problem being affordability is deadly. And that's why I think New Yorkers are going to come out against him tomorrow in droves, because it's not the diagnosis. He's absolutely right. Affordability is an issue in New York City. The problem is his prescription to it is deadly. And that's where I think Cuomo will supersede him, will excel. He has a track record as governor of the state. He's done some pretty good things. He's governed from the middle in the past. And I think he won't devastate and destroy the city the way that Mamdani will. So I think that there's going to be, again, a significant anti-Mamdani vote.
So, Madeline, I'd like you to respond to his point saying that his policies, Mamdani's policies, are deadly. Because I would argue, I mean, it makes sense, right? If somebody is working, they deserve to get paid. I mean, nothing is free. If you're providing a service, you need to pay the person providing the service. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just common sense. So where is the funds going to come from?
Yeah, so I'll just elaborate a little bit more on the policy that he's trying to adopt from New Jersey. So it was basically you tax the top 1% 2% more, and those are the funds, and that ends up factoring into a tremendous amount of money, which would be able to cover childcare and buses and perhaps trains for people to. And it really just facilitates them getting to and from work, right? The theory behind it is that the people who are in the top 1% are the employers, by and large, and they have not been engaging in the kind of wage, I guess, growth that would need to accommodate for inflation. And so and I think the reason why Mamdani has been so successful isn't just because he's gonna make everything free. I think it's because he gave people a vision of what their future would look like, and that where their life is easier, where their life is an easier one to live, where getting to and from work doesn't cost them an extra $150 a month, where they don't have to spend their whole paycheck in childcare. And the reason why the Democrats have failed in the past is because they haven't had a vision. They haven't put people in a place where they could see in their minds themselves in the future where it was easier. And I think that he's the first candidate to do that. I don't think that the Democratic Party is necessarily shifting way far left. I think that the Democrats now are where MAGA was 10 years ago. They're just desperate for something new, and a democratic socialist is the only thing on the menu.
Is it fair to tax the rich?
You have to tax everyone. I don't think you should disproportionately tax the rich. I think that you'll devastate employment in the city of New York. And people say, well, we should raise the minimum wage. Well, what is the minimum wage in America? The minimum wage in America is $0. Because that's what you make when you don't have a job. And so the idea is, Mamdani can come up with all these great ideas, and he can say what he's going to do, and he's going to make the buses free, he's going to have city-run grocery stores, and he's going to tax the rich and the uber wealthy. At the end of the day, if every employer in this city leaves because of taxes and because they're getting penalized for having jobs and supporting these people's careers, they're just going to leave the city of New York, and there's not going to be any jobs. So I think that it's easy to say the things that you want to say, and everything's going to be free, and you're going to have free buses, and you're going to have free grocery stores, and you're going to have and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if employers leave the city in droves, there will be no jobs, there will be no grocery stores, and there will be no employment.
Let's be clear, though. The only people that are going to be affected by this, and it's not like all the grocery stores are going to be free, right? There's a section, there's a part of it that's going to be impacted by this, so that the people who are hungry can eat, which I also agree is something that President Trump cares about. I think that if given the opportunity, that he would want to fund the issues that we're having right now with SNAP. But I digress. I think the thing that we need to remember here, though, in terms of especially like the rent freezes that he's been talking about, is that the amount of money that landlords are making already is a tremendous amount, right? They've already been engaging in, like, let's say if it's a bunch of apartment complexes, they've all agreed that they're going to charge people at the very top of what they could possibly afford. And if they all do it, right, and there's no competition with anybody being lower, then everyone has to pay a tremendous amount. That's the kind of activity that's been going on here. And so when the people who are the landlords, who are the 1%, say, how are we going to make money? It's like, you're already making a ton of money. We're just making it so that you can't keep extorting these people living in New York City.
Okay, let me ask you this. If we put a cap on how much money a person can make, whether it's a landlord or it's an entrepreneur or a business person, does that disincentivize, innovation in a sense?
I think there's a difference in putting a cap on how much money someone can make and instituting an ethical regulation. I think the reason why I consider myself a Democrat is because I believe in regulating business, because I think that business unregulated naturally is unethical. I think that if you don't step in, like the natural consequence of business growth is that, especially because of the laws, the way that they're structured in the United States, is that they will do whatever they need to do in order to succeed, even if it means hurting people. And that's where I think government should come in and step in. So it's not necessarily putting a cap on it. It's just making sure that there's ethical behavior that exists in society.
Okay, Jason, if you have a response, I'd like to hear it, and then I would like to move the conversation on to the implications if Mamdani wins nationally and as well for the Democratic Party.
Sure. I mean, just quickly to address the last point, I think you cannot legislate markets. Markets are free. That's the best way to bring rents down, is to increase the supply. If there's higher demand, you need to increase the supply. The idea that a government official is going to legislate minimum wage or rents is ridiculous. I think it just destroys and decimates the industry. Now, as far as your last question about the implications from a general countrywide political atmosphere, I think that if Mamdani is successful in this election, you will see his playbook, his populist left-wing playbook, will be replicated in every major Democrat-run city, because he will become the poster child of the Democratic Party. I think you're already seeing the Democratic Party sort of position him in that way. If he is stopped here in New York City, which I hope he is, you will see that playbook of how to stop the DSAs and Democratic Socialists across every Democrat-run city. You'll see that playbook replicated across this country. So I believe that what's happening right here, right now in this city, in New York City, and what plays out tomorrow will have very, very significant impacts going forward in every state election.
Adam, I saw you shaking your head.
Well, I think that your assessment is generally right. Like, everything that I've heard you say is correct. I just disagree with the underlying premise. I do think that the Democrats have looked at Mamdani and they've said, okay, so the issue is affordability. That's what we should have been talking about the whole time. And okay, this is what people want. They want free this, that, and everything else. That's not, I don't think that's it. I think that the reason why Mamdani's been so successful isn't because he's focused on affordability. I think that is the issue. But if that were the case, then Kamala Harris could have won by giving people $25,000 to buy their first home, right? There are lots of people who've made lots of promises. The deal is that he's authentic. The deal is that when he speaks, people believe him. And that is significant. That means something. But I still think that the Democrats will continue to misdiagnose how to be successful as a politician. And they'll say, okay, so we're going to do all the things that happened here in New York City. So I don't think you're wrong. I think that is something that could happen, that could follow up. But I also think that New Yorkers are brave. I think that they vote differently than the rest of the country. And they tend to take bigger steps than perhaps a more conservative state, even if they are liberal.
So to use your words, you said that could happen. Are you referring to that Mamdani could potentially become the face of the Democratic Party?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to piggyback on that, I think President Trump would love nothing more than for Mamdani to be the face of the Democratic Party going forward. That's true. And I think you wouldn't have a Mamdani if you didn't have such a successful President Trump presidency. I think that what's happened to the Democratic Party is they've gotten pushed like a feral animal into a corner of a room, and they're dying for some fresh ideas, some fresh blood, and Mamdani is what they're grabbing onto. I personally think that that's the wrong blood to grab onto, and I've made that point numerous times today in this interview, but I do think that he is an asset to Trump and MAGA, not a liability, from a national political standpoint.
So Madeline, do you think his policies, not specifically the freezing of rent or free bus fares, but the idea, the core theme of his policies, do you think that's going to be popular nationwide?
I do. I think that there's a faction that includes myself of Democrats who loved Bernie from the beginning, right? And it's not even the AOC. aspect of it. I think that Bernie has become a figure who's like, much like Trump, has repeated his beliefs in a similar way over and over again, such that people can repeat them to each other and they believe it now. And I think that what he's advocated for is healthcare as a human right. What he's advocated for is being able to live and be successful in your society. And I think, and when you get down to it, right, there's two different ways to go about it if you're a Democrat versus a Republican. But when you have people who are willing to take a major risk and do things an entirely different way, that usually doesn't come from Democrats. Usually the brave ones are the Republicans who are willing to engage in something. So then that speaks to the fact that Democrats really do feel like they're a feral animal backed into a corner and just want something different and are begging for something new.
All right, Jason, we're just about out of time. I started with her, so I'll end with you.
Yeah, look, I think going back to what I said earlier, I think we should all keep our eyes on the anti-Mamdani vote. I am no fan of Andrew Cuomo. I think he's a relic of the Democratic Party. Having said that, I think that his motives, his campaign, and everything that he stands for, I think we know where he governs. He will govern from the middle. I think that President Trump was very clear to Republican voters in the city of New York that a bad Democrat is better than a communist any day of the week, and I think that that's hopefully what's going to play out tomorrow in the election.
Well, all right, more agreements than I actually thought you guys would have in this conversation.
Yeah.
Overall, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Inscribed in a memorial, the names of millions of Jewish people killed during World War II. The World Holocaust Remembrance Center says it has reached a milestone in identifying victims with the help of artificial intelligence. Here's more.
These are the names of the 5 million Jewish people killed in the Holocaust during World War II who have now been identified.
I think we'll never be able to document all the names of the victims.
Dr. Alexander Avram is the director of the Hall of Names and the central database of Shoah victims' names. He explained that not every victim of the Holocaust was documented.
Most of those sent to in deportation to Transnistria and camps and ghettos and killing sites were not registered. Or if they were registered, many of those records were destroyed by the Nazis and their accomplices towards the end of the war in order not to leave traces.
The World Holocaust Remembrance Center in Jerusalem says the 5 million names represent a milestone reached after 7 decades of work. This comes after the center developed AI-powered software that started combing through piles of records last year to identify hundreds of thousands of Jewish people killed, a process that has been too extensive to research manually.
We have started to play with AI technology in the hope that it will help us locate and retrieve more names.
The center says there are still about 1 million Jewish victims who remain unknown.
It's about one person and another person and another person, and not just persons, Jews that were murdered in the Holocaust. So when you have the names, you can remember.
In hospitals and doctors' offices across the U.S., singers and musicians are helping patients. The performances come amid several recent studies suggesting that listening to music can help alleviate pain. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
When you are fearless.
In the recovery unit of UC San Diego Health, nurse Rod Salasai helps patients manage their pain after surgery. Along with medications, he performs music ranging from folk songs to favorites like Somewhere Over the Rainbow. He says music and pain medication work side by side.
Once they got some pain medication, they started to relax, and then when you instill some music in between, then it's a different level of comfort that they experience.
Salasai says he sees music's impact on heart rate, blood pressure, and sometimes requests for fewer painkillers. Patient Richard Huang says the music helped him focus on recovery instead of pain.
I was expecting a typical nurse that just comes in and do his or her job, and that's it. And Rod came in here with a whole different attitude and atmosphere.
Your dreams must never die.
Salasai says he has performed for about 2,000 patients over the last 16 years.
I want to encourage them through music and give them hope that regardless of what's going on through the hospital stay and onwards, will be manageable.
Dutch researchers have found that music can draw attention away from pain. A study on 548 participants found tunes of all genres helped. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Election season is back. Socialism is on the ballot in New York, and Trump-backed Republicans in Virginia and New Jersey face their Democratic opponents for governor with results that could impact each party's future. Watch these key races and more during our live special coverage with live data analysis and on-the-ground teams. Join NTD's Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on Election 2025 tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NTD.